Hello and welcome back to the Not the Old Firm YouTube channel. My name is Ben Banks, here to look ahead to a pretty big weekend of Scottish football off the back of what has been another turbulent week in the SPFL. It's always pretty busy in Scottish football. This week perhaps been a bit more dramatic than other weeks, which takes quite some doing. And we'll look ahead to the weekend's fixtures as well as some of the headlines that are going along with these matches. There's four on the Saturday: Hamilton versus Kilmarnock, Livingston, Dundee United, Motherwell, Hibs and St Mirren, Aberdeen. Every single game having some sort of team involved in some sort of storyline or major event during the week. So ones to look forward to. Then on the Sunday, it's Ross County hosting Rangers and St Johnstone travelling to Celtic. A Celtic side under severe pressure at the moment. We'll just get straight into it. So much to cover, so no time to waste. Hamilton versus Kilmarnock. Two very contrasting moods heading into this one. Obviously, the big news of the week: St Menin and Kilmarnock being hit with their disciplinary charges. They had charges brought against them for the COVID-19 outbreaks at each specific club, and now they have finally had the outcomes of that, and both have been found guilty on those accounts. Different things like sitting too close to each other on the coaches, sitting next to each other at pre-match meals, car sharing in some instances as well at clubs. So they've both been hit with 3-0 forfeits for the games that had to be postponed due to their COVID-19 outbreaks, as well as that a £40,000 suspended fine that will go on until next summer should there be any further breaches of the COVID-19 protocols. Really heavy penalties. Obviously, the long term, there's the potential £40,000, a lot of money for clubs in this climate, so there's the potential of that, but more so in the short term, 3-0 forfeits have been handed out. Kilmarnock's outstanding game against Motherwell have been handed a 3-0 win, and then St Mirren's games against Hamilton, and again, Motherwell have also been gone down as 3-0 defeats, but for Hamilton, they are the benefiters of that. They get 3 points, they move level on points with St Mirren going into the weekend now. There was almost a dark mood around Hamilton. Fans were outside the ground trying to talk to Brian Rice about what was going wrong, but they seem to have turned a wee bit of a corner. There's a wee bit of light. The draw against Aberdeen, I watched that one. Very good performance from Accies, especially in the second half in that one. They showed a lot of fight and they showed the usual determination we associate with Hamilton in the Premiership. And now, should they beat Kilmarnock, they could go as high as ninth. So just shows you how quickly football turns. That wee bit of luck that goes for you. But obviously Kilmarnock will be eager to start putting points in. I know it was only one game, but it was a home game. They'd have looked for 3 points in, and they'll be bitterly disappointed. They are bitterly disappointed. They've said as much in a club statement. So they'll be looking to right a few wrongs this weekend, look to get on the winning trail and sort of fully move on from this troubling week overall. Livingston versus Dundee United. Again, another story that's dominated the headlines this week is both Livingston and Dundee United. Livingston still searching for a new manager, and interim boss David Martindale has thrown his name fully into the hat. He says he's happy to do whatever Livingston please, whether that's bringing in a new head manager, whether that he continues as his head of football operations role, but he's also happy to take over as manager as well. So he seems keen for that, and they won 4-0 against Derry United in his first game, so good way to start. And Dundee United, they've been in the COVID headlines as well this weekend. First of all, it was some of their coaching staff had to go into isolation. Then it was their entire first team coaching staff. And now it is 9 of their first team players. COVID again taking a massive hold on some Premiership clubs. So they're going to be severely weakened. Head of a academy analysis, I believe, is taking the first team this week. Probably couldn't have imagined in his wildest dreams that this was going to occur. So Mickey Mellon all having to work from home, as well as a large amount of the playing staff who were in contact with medical staff at St Andrews, where Dundee United train. So Livingston perhaps looking to build on in the table as well. Obviously, those below them, St Mirren, even Kilmarnock just slightly above them. I've had those games in hand. Wiped off as 3-0 defeats. There's also been obviously heavy damage on the goal difference side of things as well. So that won't come into play just yet, but Livingston definitely now having the chance to move up the Premiership table. They're in 10th just now, and with a victory they could potentially go as high as maybe 9th or 8th, moving slightly up the table. But obviously they've had a couple of turbulent weeks, so they'll just be happy with any sort of progression. Mull versus Hibs. We heard from Mull manager Stephen Robinson and Hibs boss Jack Ross ahead of this game. It's before on Monday, the gap between these two sides in the league could have been as much as 11 points. Now, by the end of play Saturday, it could be as low as 2. Mull handed 6 points in 2 away games from the COVID matches. Stephen Robinson reacting to that, as well as giving a massive injury update. So much going on in the medical department at Fir Park, both good and bad. There's bad news in the short term, but good news in the long term, like the Trevor Carson, Jake Carroll, Charles Dunn, all coming back, as well as Liam Donnelly as well. And Hibs boss Jack Ross doesn't really agree with the decisions brought against St Mirren and Kilmarnock. He says it's a disappointing day for Scottish football. So plenty from them this week, and we heard from both of them just before kick-off at Fir Park on Saturday.
Yeah, obviously, all we wanted from the outcome was a decision, so we could get on with things. And obviously, we wanted the games put into the fixture schedule as quick as possible. So it probably makes sense why it took so long now. But I'd say we don't know all the ins and outs of it. I didn't sit in any kind of panel, so we're glad that we've got some sort of clarity on it from our point of view.
How's Barry as well? Obviously, he was the other one that was in isolation for a bit.
Yeah, both trained on Wednesday and Thursday. Obviously, they came back in, got tested again, all clear again, and trained really well. So even on Saturday, when you don't have options on the bench, it boosts your squad a little bit, especially in that midfield area.
Are they ready to start, or is it just 10 days in the house? Perhaps take a bit of time to build fitness up.
Maybe an ask for both of them to start. They've not been able to do any kind of running. I think Alan's got a gym in his house, so he'll be okay. And they're both very fit boys, both very, very dedicated boys. So that'll be a decision whether we can put them both in after that time out.
Is Devante Cole all right? I know you said last week you went.
No, Devante won't be available. Jordan White's a doubt as well. So a wee bit later on striking options for Saturday. Well, Jake's going to join in today for the first time. It'll be non-contact, but with the group, so that'll be the first time he joins in. So that'll be good to see. Obviously, he's been out a long time. Is it nearly a year now? So you can't just throw him back in. He's going to need a month, 3 weeks minimum of football. Again, you have a problem arranging friendly games. People need 4 and 5 games before they play, but that isn't going to be possible for us at the moment. Donny's he started running again, which is really good news for us, and is now gradually just easing him back into it. He's seen the specialist who's given the okay to start kicking on a little bit further with things. Liam Donnelly's seen the specialist today, hopefully to get the okay. They move to the next stage of his rehab, and Trevor's come along great. We're hoping Trevor might only be another 2-3 weeks max.
It's quite straightforward, and from my own thoughts on it is I'm not going to use any more complicated language than to say that I don't agree that the punishment that those clubs have been given is befitting of the breaches. Simple as that. And the SPFL have deemed that it is a fitting punishment. We all have to adhere to that in terms of places within the league, but certainly from my point of view, I don't agree with it. I think it's a disappointing day for Scottish football that we've got to that point. But so be it. I'm sure it's going to happen again as the season goes on. It's a similar answer as I've just given, and that, as I said, I just think that the severity of those punishments, I'm not sure, in my opinion, is in line with what has those clubs have breached in terms of protocol. I also think that when you administer any sort of guidelines, protocols, rules, regulations, how they're regulated is important. So how intense the scrutiny you come under as a club, and to ensure that you're doing the right thing, not to try and catch people out, but to try and help and guide and advise people, is something that's important in every single walk of life that requires regulation. There's regulations in pretty much every industry out there. So maybe that should be taken into consideration, because I don't think that any of these clubs, and I'm on the outside of it, I don't think any of those clubs have sought to seek any sort of sporting advantage or sought to cut any corners in terms of how they've done things. I can't believe that for 1 second, and I don't think any of the evidence suggests that either. Hence the reason why I'm the opinion that it's a pretty severe punishment. Not that my opinion really matters in the grand scheme of things, but as I said, I just genuinely found it quite a disappointing day for Scottish football that we got to that stage.
Final game on the Saturday is St Mirren versus Aberdeen. Again, another one that's dominated. St Mirren having a couple of games wiped off from them, 2-3-0 defeats against them, and they face Aberdeen, who they beat in the League Cup last Saturday 2-1. Thoroughly deserved their win. On the park, it's going well. 7 games without defeat, but off the park this week, it's been another tough week for St Johnstone. Obviously, you had earlier in the week a statement released about financial irregularities found at the club, to do with different things on that side of things, and as well as that, they've then had the COVID case go against them. So would really brighten the mood just around the club. They've been fairly positive on the park, but obviously a couple of troubling bits of news this week. And Jim Goodwin speaking before the announcement was made on the sort of how the COVID appeals and cases would go against St Mirren. He was speaking of the week ahead, and this is what he had to say.
Yeah, definitely. I think we started the game really, really well, and we could argue that Aberdeen probably started a little bit slow. I did read Derek's comments after the game, and he certainly felt that. So we're under no illusions that this weekend is going to be a completely different Aberdeen. I would imagine they'll be really fired up. They'll be looking to try and put things right in their eyes from last weekend. So we have to be prepared for that. We're certainly not, expecting an easy game, that's for sure. And obviously we'll be underdogs going into it again, as would be expected. We're at total opposite ends of the table at the moment. Getting through in the cup was hugely important to us as a club. Not only for us just to get into the quarter final, but financially as well. It's important, but our bread and butter is the league, and it's important that we back up the 2 most recent league games with another really good performance and result against Aberdeen.
And on the Sunday, it's Ross County Rangers, St Johnstone Celtic. Ross County, off the back of a massive high against Celtic last weekend, the shocked Scottish football, but now they've got it all to do again against the other side of the Old Firm. And this one, by all accounts, is going to be much tougher. Rangers beating just about everybody in their path this season, looking really good against some of Europe's top clubs. They're playing at a Champions League level. So this will be a really tough test for Stuart Kettlewell. He's missing a lot of players as well. Stephen Kelly, who was influential in that, is ineligible against his parent club. Ollie Shaw, Carl Tremarco, Ross Draper, these type of players missing as well. So they're carrying injuries. It'll be another tough test for them against a rampant Rangers side. Perhaps expectation rises slightly after the heroics last Sunday, but overall they'll go into this as massive underdogs in any sort of points, perhaps even a positive performance up against superior opposition will please Stuart Kettlewell. And then on the Sunday, it is Celtic Park for St Johnstone. St Johnstone undefeated in 10, Celtic with 2 wins in 11. The form couldn't be any more contrasting. It's a massive game, obviously, for Celtic, but here not the Old Firm. We focus on St Johnstone, who are on a great run of form. They're into the League Cup quarter-finals, and albeit they faced tough opposition in the quarter-finals of that one against Dunfermline, Championship leaders. That would be an easy walkover, but it is Premiership versus Championship. They will be favourites to move through to the semi-finals, and what a boost that would be for them at Dermot Park side. But on this weekend, there will be some sort of expectation, more so than other times, on St Johnstone getting a result. Everything seems to be going against Celtic just now. They aren't playing particularly well. There are calls for the manager to go. Callum Davidson, surely on his side, must sense an opportunity to really capitalise on that. I suppose if you look at it on the flip side, it's perhaps one of the worst times to get Celtic as well. Desperate for a result, needing to prove a point. And they have got the quality players in their squad. They haven't just disappeared overnight. Still got the likes of Mohamed El Yunusi, Odsonne Edouard, Ryan Christie, international players who can cause damage. Callum Davidson will be well aware of that, and he will set his side up appropriately for the challenge that will bring. But again, even if they manage to go to Celtic Park and get a point, it'd be a good point considering the sort of disbalanced season and budgets and playing squad and things like that. He'll have at his disposal compared to Neil Lennon. But it'd certainly be interesting to see the reaction on Sunday night if St Johnstone were able to get a result in that one. That's all we've got time for on this weekend's preview. Hope you have enjoyed. Got plenty coming on the way in the channel. 2 years of Not the Old Firm is this Saturday as well. So yeah, 2 years we've been going on this. So thank you for all that have sort of. We've only just started the video, but if you've tuned into our video content, thank you for that. But overall, it's obviously been on the main site. We've been going for 2 years now, which is quite mad when you think of it. I started it in college when I was 17, I think. So it's progressed heavily since then, and thank you all for your support. So we'll have themed content around that over the course of Saturday morning. Before we have our usual Saturday fixtures we'll be attending, we should hopefully, not all confirmed yet, but we should hopefully be at all 4 games on the Saturday in the Premiership, which is great, and potentially Ross County Rangers too. So keep your eyes out for that one. And in the Championship, we'll be at a couple of games: Morton versus Hearts and Wraith Rovers versus Dunfermline. 2 big ones there: Fife Derby and Heartsland prove a bit of a point after losing to Alloa last week. So you can catch all the reports and reaction to them on our site and on Twitter and maybe a wee bit on the channel. Who knows? We'll wait and see. In League One as well, we'll have coverage. We were meant to be at Clyde Forfar, but that one's been postponed due to a COVID outbreak at Clyde. But we will still have 2 reports and bits of coverage from Falkirk versus Peterhead and Partick Thistle versus Dumbarton. So keep an eye out for those games as well. But we also have an exciting interview, I think a well worth interview. It's an hour long, so you'll be wanting to get popcorn and some tea and sit around the telly for this one. It's an in-depth chat on youth football and the impacts of COVID-19. So we're joined by Stuart McCaffrey and sports therapist David Jenkins. Stuart McCaffrey, formerly of Inverness, and a few other clubs in Scotland. He now works well within grassroots football and all sides of that, whether it's on the park and off the park stuff. So lots of insight into that and how youth football has been impacted by COVID-19. So do check that out once it's on the channel Saturday morning for that one. Right, I think that's me. Got all the bone PR stuff all the way. All that's left for me to say is do subscribe to the channel. It really does mean a lot to us. Like this video, and until next time, take it easy.